We're on the sidelines of the Morningstar Individual Investor Conference, and you mentioned in your presentation that it kind of, this year reminds you somewhat of 2000. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, the comment I was making early on about 2000, obviously we've got a market that's being dominated by technology companies. 20% of the S&P 500, which is the main US index, is comprised of 5 or 6 companies. That's higher concentration than we had back in 99, 2000. The difference, of course, these companies are earning a lot of money and have very proven business models, where back in 99, 2000, many of the companies weren't earning anything. And many of them had very questionable business models that were unproven. But we do have companies that are being very highly valued in the technology space. I wouldn't say in those proven business models, but in unproven business models, where the market's putting extraordinary valuations on companies that really may never work out. And that's our caution is there's one thing about, Alphabet or Alibaba or Microsoft is doing really well, and therefore there's this younger company, let's get on board, and its share price is going up. There is some warning signs out there for us that people are not discriminating very well between the true winners and the wannabes.
It seems to me that the pace of change in technology has just been so rapid. I mean, I remember when I got my first iPhone, and now it's ubiquitous, and the change that has occurred in that period is just staggering. The Magellan
Lex, I'd just say we're absolutely right. We're on a webinar, we're on a Zoom link at the moment. We went back 5 years ago. How would this world cope from a business perspective, even 5 years ago, in terms of bandwidth and everything else, to carry on our life? So you're right, the rate of change, we're very lucky this pandemic hit when it did. 5 years earlier, the damage to the world because of the loss of total productivity of most service industries would have been extraordinarily large.
Hamish, all that you're saying just sort of brings up so many questions, and what you've just said then makes me think of COVID-20. Will we approach it differently? Will we say, hey, we're not going through that again, we'll do it differently this time?
Yeah, it's a very good question. As bad as COVID is, we're very lucky that the mortality rate is actually pretty low. If we had an airborne virus that had a mortality rate like MERS had, it would have been truly frightening. And frankly, you couldn't have let anybody out of their houses. We would have had a total lockdown until we had some way out of it, because the mortality rates of that are sort of up at 50 or 60% instead of point something of 1%. And you ask whether or not we will change and we'll learn things. I hope so, because at some point in human history, we will get a coronavirus that comes from an animal that is both very contagious, most like by airborne transmission, and deadly. And this is a dry run for something that could be much, much worse. I know it sounds very bad at the moment, but there could be something that literally could be a threat to humanity. And I hope we're going to learn the lessons out of this, and we will find ways of dealing with it much more quickly. The one thing I'd say, both central banks and governments responded actually fairly quickly. Well, the response hasn't been perfect around the world. I think Australia and New Zealand and Taiwan go to close to perfect responses in terms of managing the healthcare side of it. Many countries haven't, and they've let politics get in the middle of it. If this was more deadly and we had that going on, it worries me. I hope we'll have better sort of PPE reserves and things in the world. I hope we will have very good game plans worked out. Certainly the fiscal and monetary response came hard and came early, and that was very, very worthwhile.
Any advice in this video is general advice prepared by Morningstar without reference to your financial objectives, situation, or needs. You should consider the advice in light of these matters and any relevant product disclosure statement before making any decision to invest.